You're now listening to the Engage the Rockies podcast, your go-to podcast for local and state issues concerning Colorado.
Hello, Rockies. This is Sarah Jane Maroney, your host, and welcome to our week in review for the last week of May in 2025. First up, DPS. I'll actually read you the title of this article. If you'd like to know which articles we're citing from, please make sure to like and subscribe and come to engagetherockies.com where you can get our newsletters where we cite all of the articles. So the title of this article is Denver Public Schools Quietly Racks Up Millions in Off-the-Books Debt. It's a very long article, and it is explaining something that is somewhat convoluted. Basically, what happens is it is legal for the schools to put their property in a COP, which is a certificate of participation, and then lease back the buildings in order to make funds. Now, obviously, that's not a mill levy override. That's not the use of bonds that are voter approval. And so people are saying that this is a workaround so that they don't have to go to the voters asking for permission to do this. What's interesting about this is that this has never been challenged in court. And they've been doing this tactic since 1984. And it's widely used in public finance circles, but because the public doesn't understand it as well, transferring the ownership of schools to a corporation and then leasing the buildings back, it's not very well known. A civil rights attorney and the founder of Vanguard Justice LLC are representing a parental advocacy group called Mamás de DPS in a lawsuit challenging this lease financing strategy. It's only legal if payments are appropriated from the general fund or the capital reserve fund. And evidently, some of the payments have been made using bond proceeds. And this was obtained through ACORA, a Colorado Opens Records Act, showing that these payments were raised to it. So this is where, are they in compliance or not? And the certificates of participation, a COP, is deliberately done in a way so it's not labeled as debt. And what is really interesting, in 2008, they had a problem because DPS wanted to get out of the internal retirement system and merge with the Colorado Public Employees Retirement Association, or PARA. And so then the DPS CFO at the time and the superintendent, none other than Michael Bennet, who is now our U.S. Senator and running for the governor of Colorado, persuaded the school board to issue a $750 million deal in COPs with a derivative component. The finance records show that the cost of the district's lease has ballooned and sometimes far exceeding what a normal voter-approved bond would have been. The Colorado Office of Attorney Regulation Counsel has opened an investigation into the district attorney for the 23rd Judicial District, George Brauchler. We have a great interview with him if you'd like to check that out. He is prosecuting a man named Justin Schreiber, and Justin Schreiber has requested this investigation into George Brauchler based on social media posts about being declared a racist in multiple different posts of George Brauchler's. And per Colorado law, the Attorney Regulation Council officials couldn't confirm the status of the investigation. Schreiber is accused of allegedly calling in false reports to the Lyman Police Department in Lincoln County and calling dispatch 32 times in 3 days, claiming that the police broke into his home and planted drugs. And a protection order was issued against Schreiber after he allegedly followed an Elbert County Sheriff's Office deputy home from work. Schreiber is a military veteran and said he struggles with PTSD and argued that the charges were fabricated during his political campaign. The article went into great detail explaining what questions were asked of DA Brauchler, and DA Brauchler has responded to all of these questions from the Colorado Office of Attorney Regulation Counsel. And Schreiber continues to face these felony charges and is due back in Lincoln County Court on the 5th of June. It might only be May of 2025 currently, but we're as close to quiet as we're going to get in terms of elections. However, it is going to be quite the election year. This is the first time in at least a century, cites this article, that every one of the state level constitutional offices, governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, secretary of state, and state treasurer, are open since the 5-term limited Democratic incumbents each took office in 2019. The current attorney general, Bill Weiser, is running for governor. Secretary of State Jena Griswold is attempting to run for attorney general. On the Republican side of things, we have U.S. Representative Greg Lopez. He filled former U.S. Representative Ken Buck's seat for 6 months after a special election. He's making his third attempt to run for governor. That field also has State Senator Mark Baisley from Woodland Park, State Representative Scott Bottoms from Colorado Springs, and Teller County Sheriff Jason Mikesell, as well as another former congressional candidate, Joshua Griffin. So things are shaping up for Colorado's election season next year. You'll recall that Colorado Springs Mayor Mabolde was testifying in federal court after the hate crime hoax. What's rather interesting, this article is from the Daily Wire, which is the original outlet that said that he had lied to the FBI. Mayor Mabolde then came out with a statement that he did not lie to the FBI. The 5-day trial concluded on the 23rd of May, and FBI agent Ethan Doherty testified that when he interviewed Mayor Mabolde said that he was 120% sure that he did not have a phone call with Bernard, that's one of the defendants. He also revealed that Mayor Mabolde began using a new cell phone the day after the hoax. In his video stating that he did not lie to the FBI, Mayor Mabolde said he had paperwork from the Department of Justice showing that he had been a victim. However, the Justice Department produced documentation at trial saying that Mabolde was at one point under investigation and that the investigation was closed but could be reopened, and that the closure should not be considered an exoneration. On Friday, Governor Jared Polis signed into law Senate Bill 276, which is a sweeping expansion of Colorado's existing immigrant protection policies, further limiting interactions between federal officers and local officials. Colorado had already passed measures restricting state agencies from sharing personal immigration-related information with federal officers. SB 276 extends the ban on the data to include local governments as well as state, judicial, and legislative branches in terms of sharing between them, unless a valid warrant is provided. The bill also, in other provisions, gives any immigrant without legal status the ability to challenge guilty pleas that they may have entered unconstitutionally for Class 3 misdemeanors, traffic misdemeanors, and petty offenses. It prevents jails and law enforcement from delaying a defendant's release at the request of the federal immigration officers, and stipulates that continued detainment of a person who has posted bond on civil immigration detainer constitutes a new warrantless arrest. And it removes a requirement for students seeking in-state tuition or people seeking a state ID who are undocumented to submit an affidavit saying they have applied or plan to apply for lawful status, and grants the governor the ability to deny access to states sending their National Guard or other military troops into Colorado to carry out the federal immigration policy. And this is after the U.S. Justice Department filed a lawsuit on the 30th of April in district court claiming that Colorado, its state sanctuary laws, violate the U.S. Constitution. So watch this space. And those are the top stories for the last week in May 2025. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for listening to the Engage the Rockies podcast, your go-to podcast for local and state issues concerning Colorado.